We're going to call the meeting to order. The first meeting of the Hooksett Community Builders. First thing I want to do is thank Matt for the homemade gavel. He's very talented. And not that we're going to need this.
By giving John a gavel.
Yeah. But thank you, Matt, for that. I'd like to have a member of the public stand up and start our Pledge of Allegiance. So we have a volunteer, or you want me to pick somebody?
I'll do it.
How about you? Right in the back. You.
Yep, okay.
We're over here. Yep.
Okay, that helps.
I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Well, if you want to say, this is your meeting. This is the people's meeting. So the first thing I thought we would do is introduce the board members. We don't have everybody here tonight. I've got Rob Duhane is the town councilor, so he's at a town council meeting. And I'm trying to think, somebody else told me they weren't going to be here. Just sure. Who was it? Todd is supposed to be here. Kelly Thomas. She wasn't able to meet tonight, so she'll be at our next meeting. So if we could just go around the table, I'll start. My name is John Lisgard, and I've been a Hooksett resident since 1992. My wife and I, Debbie, built a house here. We have two boys, 19 and 24 years old. They grew up in the Hooksett sports program through the Hooksett school system. I'm a member of Kiwanis as well. Basically discovered this whole idea of a nonprofit by going up to North Conway. So North Conway has done a similar thing with the community center, splash pad, all by a nonprofit organization. So it saves the town from having to foot the bill on something like this. Basically, the people that want to support it are the ones that are going to pay for it. And that's basically the idea. It's a proven idea that's gone on for about 50 years in North Conway. We have a YouTube video where you can see the whole interview we did. So if you want to search for North Conway Hooksett, you'll be able to see the interview I did with the director up there. And I'm the president of this organization. So why don't we just go right around the table?
Sure. My name is Joe Paredes. I am a financial advisor in the Edward Jones office here in Hooksett. I don't live in Hooksett, but I basically do everything but sleep and bathe in Hooksett. I'm involved with the Kiwanis Club, Lions Club, Hooksett Chamber of Commerce, and I'm delighted that John asked me to be here today.
Ross Santulis, I'm a resident of Hooksett. My two young children, my wife and I reside here. Grew up in Hooksett as well, and looking forward to helping this people.
Henry Roy, I'm a semi-retired CPA. I've been here 52 years, and I've been on every committee you could ever ask for in Hooksett.
Oliver Mack, I've been up for 20 years. Me and my wife Sandra live in Campbell Hill. I'm looking forward to working with the team and John.
Elaine Gamache, I've been called upon to be an assistant treasurer to Oliver. I've got several years of accounting experience, and I was not born here, but I was raised here in the early 70s. And look forward to helping out and see if I can do any assistance.
You're up next, Mike.
Michael Likubovich. I live in Hooksett, wife and two kids. I was not born here. Actually born in the Soviet Union. Been in the US 30 years, and I'm currently a state rep out of Hooksett. And I'm a technology guy. John invited me to be part of it.
I'm Alicia Callahan. I'm a comm major at Southern New Hampshire University, so I'm hoping this helps me build my resume. I'm more into journalism, so I think this will help me in my future career.
She's our secretary, just so everybody knows.
My name is Dave Scarpetti. I live in Hooksett and live lived here since 1999. We built our home here. My wife's a hairstylist in our home. I'm a realtor in the Manchester, Hooksett, Auburn area. I'm on the chairman of the Economic Committee in Hooksett. I'm a member of Kiwanis.
My name is Matt Barrett. I own Barrett Insurance, and we've been in Hooksett almost 50 years. I don't actually live in Hooksett. I do everything but eat and bathe in Hooksett. And I'm on the Economic Development Committee. And I've been a Kiwanis member. I was one of the founding members of Kiwanis in Hooksett in 2000. And I'm just glad that John asked me to be here and try to make it a reality.
So the next part of our meeting is public input. So I'll probably describe to everybody the format we're going to follow for all of our meetings. Normally nonprofits are almost secretive. It's hard to find out what's going on inside of a nonprofit. And then you look at government. I was on the school board for 3 years. The government is the opposite. If you want to know something, you do a right to know request. The government has to give you that information. So I thought, well, what a keen idea if we mix the two. And so we have a nonprofit, but we have public meetings, public input. Basically everything is transparent, including the numbers, the money. That's where we'll be keeping our accountants very busy, making sure all of our numbers match up and everybody's aware of what's going on. The only time we wouldn't be having the information public would be something like, let's say you had the director of the community center, there was some kind of a reprimand or something personal that you had to take care of, or any kind of land negotiations. Of course, you wouldn't want the other side knowing what you're willing to offer for the land. So other than that, though, all the meetings will be public. There'll always be a chance for public input. We're looking for the positive and the negative, so don't be shy about giving us your input. If it's negative, that's okay. Everybody from Hooksett is welcome to the meetings, and everybody's input is always welcome. So we'll always have public input at the beginning, and we'll have one at the end. So the beginning is more or less like, here, this is on my mind, and then maybe you'll hear something at a meeting you'd like to talk about at the end. The only thing we won't do is we won't go back and forth at the meeting. We're going to videotape all of our meetings. They're going to be on the website, so if you miss a meeting, you'll be able to catch up. We're also going to have note-taking at the meeting, so we'll have that all transcribed, so you won't be able to miss any of the important stuff. And that's about it. That's going to be our format. So the first session is our first public input. If anybody would like to address the board, come on up. You're welcome to do it. And I'll take that as a no. Okay, so we'll move on. Next thing we'll do is a PowerPoint presentation. I don't know, I know a lot of people have seen it, but not everybody has. So we'll go ahead and do the PowerPoint presentation. This gives you an idea of exactly what we're thinking of, what our goals are. What we have as a target is once we have land acquired, within 3 to 5 years we want to have the community center up and running, built and up and running. So if we could lower the lights. Thanks to the library for having all this really high-tech gear. It's great. All right. Everybody see that? So if you see, the citizens of Hooksett are at the top of the priority chain. It goes all the way down to the bottom, which is the president. It's a little different than most nonprofits. These are just the people who are on the board of directors. This is how we found out this idea. This is Ryan Summer. He was the director of the community center in North Conway. got a lot of great information from him. And again, you can go to YouTube and see the whole video for yourself. Like we said, we want to be very transparent, so if any time you think we're not being, let me know, okay? So these are just some simple plans from ideas we've already heard from people in the community. This is all on our website. And we're going to be creating meetings that aren't like this. It's going to be community focused, where it's just about listening to the people from the community. So as the word gets out, they'll get bigger and bigger. We'll have more and more input, but we're going to have a few of those. So we're looking for all kinds of help from the community, whether you're an electrician, a plumber, an architect, anybody that wants to help out in this project as well. This is the key right now. We're at the very beginning. So this is where you want to get your ideas on what you want in a community center, whether it's for the elderly, for the young, or the middle-aged, bus tours, art classes, all of that we want to hear now as we're forming the idea. So we plan on having a combined Hooksett and fire representation inside the building so they can actually mingle with people from the community. Just some ideas. You think about how do you make money for a community center. You can either sell cupcakes, or you can actually have businesses that pay to lease a space inside of your community center, and at the same time, you provide service to your community members. So ideas like a salon, a barbershop, things that are open till our hours at 9 o'clock at night, where you can't get anywhere else, but you'd be able to get them at the community center. These are all different ways to make money, to raise the money, I should say, for purchasing the land, building the building. A lot of them are naming rights to the building, to the splash pad, to rooms inside. A lot of that is going on right now, and there's some big money involved with naming rights at places like this. So these are all just different ideas we're tossing out there right now. Citizens are going to come up with their own ideas of what they think would be a good way to raise money for their community center. And again, the list is never ending. We're going to try to please as many people as you can. You can't please everybody all the time. But our goal is to try to please as many people in Hooksett as we can. These are all the types of things that happen at a community center. We want to maintain a very good connection with the Hooksett Library. So no matter where we are, we're already talking about having a shuttle that runs back and forth. So instead of having a book club at the community center, we would actually have it at the library, but we provide a shuttle service back and forth. This is more about the actual physical building, you know, what we might want to see inside. And again, this is all on YouTube, so if you just go to youtube.com and search for Hooksett Community Builders, you'll be able to see this presentation over and over again. So you'll see, this is conceptual. It's not really a building, but it's what's in a building. So that's the stage we're at right now, is we want to get the ideas from the Hooksett citizens on what they want to see inside of their building. And that's how you build it from the ground up. You're not so concerned about the actual structure, but you're concerned about what goes inside your structure. I'll let Michael So the next up on the agenda is our website presentation. That's the Technology Director, Michael Yakubovich. So you can just, if you just want to just surf around on the website and just kind of show people how to get around on it.
There's actually the link to the video that John just showed right on the website. Right there. It's a separate page if you want to see it again. This button here. The board members are listed. All the people present. Everything is accessible to this main user. It is conceptual. John just described it, possibilities, sports.
So this will be a dynamic website. So as different ideas come up that become very popular, we'll add those to the website.
This is what it should contain. Meetings will be posted here. This is the agenda for today's meeting.
This is also where you go to look to see the video of any meeting. So if you miss a meeting and you want to catch up, this is where you go. You'll always be able to see the agenda. We'll try to get it out a couple weeks before a meeting so you can see what we're going to be talking about that night. Tonight's more or less an introductory meeting, but as we move forward, we'll be discussing different topics. But that's where you go. We're going to do everything through the website, so you always know where to go for your information.
These are just some thoughts. How to get involved. There's a contact. Maybe John's number is at the top of the website.
Yeah, I'm sure that's a good idea.
And there's a contact form which this sends emails.
Yeah, as we get more formalized, actually through the website, we'll have an email that is specifically for Hooksett Community Builders. So anytime you have a question, you'll just go there. For right now, it's my information, but that'll change over time.
Yes.
So the website's in its infancy right now as well. Everything, as you can see, is just at the starting phase. So it's actually a good time to see what's going on.
Yeah, that's not where it's going to be. Right?
No, it's not going to be in my house.
That's not quite right, but, that's all this right now. More information over here. That's more information.
Thank you, Michael. So Todd Lizotte is also on our board. Todd's not here tonight. Todd right now, he's a business owner and he has access to some legal help through his business. So he's going to be taking care of getting our 401c3 registered, getting our tax ID and all of that. So you can't start taking in donations or anything else until you have all that stuff registered. So right now that is in the process, and Todd's handling that for us. So where do we go from here? Our biggest challenge right now is land, finding land that's available that is something we feel that the nonprofit will be able to afford. We're also looking for any land donations, so get the word out there. If you know anybody that has land in Hooksett, we don't want to go outside of Hooksett. We want to keep it in Hooksett since it's a Hooksett Community Center. But land donations, of course, we wouldn't turn away, and that would be a great way to start. For a land donation, what we could offer would be naming rights. So if the donation was substantial, you could entertain naming rights at the whole community center. But we'll be doing naming rights on the community center, the splash pad, elements in the splash pad, and rooms inside of the community center itself, just to name a few things. That's how a lot, if you watch how a lot of these theaters or community centers get started, it's with naming rights. Because it's a great way to advertise if you're a business, or if you're somebody that wants to dedicate a memory to somebody, if you're doing a land donation. It's a great way to memorialize somebody.
Boys and Girls Club did both times when they did their capital spring thing, when they were doing Union Street and doing
Sure.
there's a donation.
Yeah. It's the way to go, and it's also the way to get people involved in your community center. Again, it's a community project. We're just going to be the people that facilitate it, but it's going to be a community-involved project. We won't be able to do it alone. We're going to need the community behind us, and that's where all of the good ideas are going to come from.
I have a question.
And it's a good time because we're right at public input. And like I said, I just want to kind of say up front, maybe the first meeting will be lax. But in the future, we don't want to do the exchange at the meeting. We just kind of want to keep the meeting to business, get people's input, make sure we hear everybody. And the reason I say that is as we get moving forward, this is going to grow. And if you can imagine, if you had a room full of people and everybody wanted to have a conversation with the board, it makes it very difficult. But we're going to break the rules tonight, okay? So if you wouldn't mind coming up and sitting in front of the board, that would be awesome. It's our public input chair.
Special chance, very.
Special chair.
Special chair.
So this is your board.
Okay, I have a couple of questions on the location. Is there any set location that you're looking at right now?
So that would be, again, under land negotiations, right? So let's just say there was a property X in the middle of Hooksett and we thought it was ideal. If we said it at our public meeting that we thought it was ideal, well, guess what? The person that owns that property now would say, aha, they really want my property. Guess what? It just doubles in price. So land negotiations, we're not going to discuss in public at these meetings. That was,
So if we have suggestions, then you don't want us to give them right now?
no, but you could give those to us in non-public. In other words, you can give this just talking to a board member. If you have an idea, you can come to me with your idea. But we don't want to discuss that in public, and it's because
I understand.
you're basically negotiating. We don't want to give up our hand.
Because some of the things that I'm concerned about is wherever it goes, I think it's a great idea, the project. I've attended classes at the community center in Allenstown, and it's multi-generational, so there are things there for there's Boys and Girls Club there, and then there's also a senior center there, so it's nice and neat to have that. So whatever is chosen for Hooksett, I'd like it to be in an area that is, can be accessible to the community, where traffic is not a major factor. I think that would be something important, where there is infrastructure. And I have a question, is it the community center and splash pad?
Yes.
So they are linked together?
Correct.
So, and for the splash pad, have you already looked at infrastructure within the community as far as contacting the water companies, whether it be Central or Village or? Yeah,
and just to be clear, that's something this nonprofit will work in unison with Hooksett Kiwanis, which is a separate nonprofit. Hooksett Kiwanis, their signature project is the splash pad. So they've done the saving of the money. They're going to be the ones to architect how it's designed. We're just going to provide the land that it's going to go on. It'll be part of the community center. It'll be basically attached to the community center.
Okay. So I was just at the Parks and Rec meeting, and they said that they had kind of divorced themselves.
Yeah, John, just let me interject just for a second. We just received a letter today from Bob Wiley saying that Kiwanis was basically yielding the decision-making and the input to this group, but will be willing to provide funding.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I haven't seen the letter yet.
Yeah, it just came, I just saw it today.
Yeah, so I'd have to see
Yeah.
what it actually is.
So it's a little awkward, the timing here.
Yeah, so the intention from the beginning was we are keeping these two nonprofits separate. We have to. Even though you have some Kiwanis members that are on this board, we are not coupled to Kiwanis with regards to this nonprofit. Their meetings are separate, our meetings are separate, but the intention is to have cooperation with Kiwanis with that splash pad. That's not something we plan on raising the money for. That's a Kiwanis organization's going to raise the money for that.
And hopefully there'll be other organizations that will be along with this as well.
Oh, exactly, yeah. We've opened it up to the Lions Club. I mean, there's Joe, I think you're a member of Lions Club. Is anybody else on the board? I don't even know. Yeah, we're opening it up, and beyond the board, we're also seeking advisors. So those advisors can come from anywhere in our community. We're looking for anybody that has a specialty, and it's not limited to younger people. Older people have great experience. I use Hank as a great example. I've learned so much from him, and I know he doesn't like to be put on the spot, but we have a lot to gain as far as knowledge from folks that are older in our community. That's a big idea of the community center, is bringing young and old together and doing activities together so they can learn. So yeah, we're wide open to, again, this is a community effort.
And I think it's a great community effort. One of my big concerns too is the area. I know Donati Park has been one of the areas that's been looked at.
Right.
I have some concerns in a lot of areas there for traffic, overbuilding in that area. You take it into consideration the neighborhood as well. So those would be some concerns that I would have for that. But I have some ideas for other areas in town as well.
Okay, great. Yeah, so we look forward to hearing that.
Those are my questions.
Great, thank you.
Oh, okay.
Anybody else? Well, hold on, let's look at, this is the public's time right now.
I know you can't say like where you like the position, but how about how much land are you looking for? Like, what kind of footprint?
We're looking 4 to 6 acres. 4 to 6 acres, yeah.
All right.
So if you have 4 to 6 acres you'd like to donate, we'd love your name and your phone number.
If you want to buy it for us, that's fine too.
Yeah. No, I'm married, so if you guys want to get in touch with me, do the Hooksett community page. So
Okay, great.
message me on that too.
Excellent. Thank you, Matt. Anybody else? Come on up.
I have a question about how much money you're looking to raise.
The problem with putting a number on it right now is you have to know what it is you're going to buy. So you have to know what the price of your land is.
Forget about the land. So assume someone gives you the land.
Somebody gives us the land,
Say if someone gives you the land, how much are you looking to raise to build what's
probably
on that
between
picture?
$2 to $4 million is the reality of it.
Okay.
The one that was built up in North Conway, this was many years ago, was $1.4 million. So it just gives you an idea of the size.
That's all it was up there? How many years ago? Wasn't that like 20 years ago?
1.4 million, yeah. I don't know exactly when they put that in, but they paid that off in 2 years.
How did they pay it off?
People getting involved, making donations, businesses, naming rights.
I noticed on your list, you're selling passes. It seems like you're selling a lot of things. So is it truly a community building if you're paying to use it every time you use it?
Well, the idea is that you have to support it somehow, right? You have to operate it and keep it running. Lights, electricity, gas, all that stuff, right? So the idea is for Hooksett residents, it'll be a nominal fee for a pass. But it's something, and it's a way for people to feel like they're contributing to their community center. Now, for people that are not Hooksett residents, the pass is going to be much more expensive. It's kind of like when you go to another town, very rarely will you find one that's free if you're not a resident of the town.
Is that the model that North Conway uses?
North Conway, yes. Yes.
Okay. So the other question I have is, we're next to United Park 2. I'm assuming that we've only been here a year, but I'm assuming that is town-owned land and state-owned land.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
I believe, yep.
So you couldn't build on that anyway?
Yeah, I don't know the details of that.
You haven't researched that?
That's we're at the beginning stages right now. With the Kiwanis project, with the splash pad, there's been research. There's one half of that land is state-owned. It was originally for the bridge that was going to be built. It was supposed to actually go right there, and they moved it north. So that piece of the property, and again, I'm not an expert on this. I have to talk to somebody from the state. But on half of that land I know is state-owned, and there's no building to be done on there. The other half, though, I would say behind the school, I'm not sure if the town owns that, or if the state is leasing that, or you're shaking your head, Matt. Do you have some information?
Yeah, if you're looking at Denali Park and the road there, so essentially to the right of the road is town-owned, and to the left of the road is state-owned.
Oh.
That's why there's no buildings on the left.
The entrance?
The entrance down to the
So it's town.
concession stand. Like, so go right to the
Right.
corner of the concession stand, pretty much up to the main road. So to the right,
Yeah.
if you're looking at the concession stand, to the right is the town, to the left is the state.
Okay, that's what I understood. I just wondered how you could build, any community group could build on town-owned land.
On something like that, the town would actually have to make a donation, and that would have to be
The town has
approved.
to vote on it.
That would have to be approved by the voters.
Okay, so when do you expect it, so do you have any idea when this land donation purchase, do you have a time frame set for that?
No.
So theoretically, this could be next week or 10 years from now?
Yeah, it won't be 10 years from now.
Okay. All right, so is there a timeline on when this goes away? If you don't do it, or, I'm just thinking for donations, you know, if somebody donates $100,000 today toward this project, and you're looking for $2 million, and then everybody else donating $10 at a time, how long am I gonna see my $100? Is it gonna be till I see some progress on my $100,000?
Correct, yeah.
I mean, I think a
Haven't,
timeline would
Yeah, sure. No, I understand what
make
you're
some
asking.
sense there.
Sure, yeah, and you gotta remember, we're at the infancy.
Yep.
We haven't
I
even
get that.
registered our tax ID yet, so these are very good pieces of input and things for us to keep in mind. And we'd have to structure that too as well, to make sure that we would have to, I would think, and again, I'm not an accountant or a lawyer, but I would think somehow you have to track your donations for a nonprofit. And if your nonprofit didn't exist, you'd have to return donations, is what I would think. And if anybody knows at the table,
That's something to put on your.
be in the bylaws? Okay, so that's something we probably want to consider.
Right, it doesn't happen within 3 years, 5 years, whatever the time.
But we'd have to make sure we track that accurately so you'd be able to return the money. You know what I'm saying? Because if you waited till after, you would have no clue on how to return that money. So we'll have to be very careful about when a donation is accepted, that we have all the information from the donor. You know, it's easy when you have the big donors that are donating, you know, $100,000. It's the little donations that I would be concerned about. We'd have to track that.
Big donations are just as important.
I'm not saying they're not important, I would say they're easier to track.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? If
Yeah.
someone donates $50, that's a little
Right.
tougher,
So-
unless you have your system in place right at the beginning,
But that'll
so.
be within your bylaws on how you
Exactly.
handle donations and.
Exactly.
what happens.
Yep.
Okay, thank you.
Great, thank you for your input.
I gave you $50 and they don't remember, but they gave you $100,000, I remember.
You would? Okay. I'll be looking for your check. Anybody else?
The answer to your question was, that it was built in 2014. At 1.4 million, yes.
2014. Thank you, Mr. Booton. Anybody else? Okay, now somebody from the board has something.
No, I just like to ask Judy a question. You said you go to Allenstown. Do they charge you and use their,
Yes.
what is the fee?
$10 a class, or is it 75 for 10 classes?
What kind of classes?
Zumba classes, yoga.
I'm shocked that Allenstown, the size of that community, how big is this community center? Where is it, first of all?
That's a good question. I go with a friend, and it's down,
Behind the fire station.
it's in a neighborhood, but the upstairs part is the Boys and Girls Club, and there's a playground outside. And then downstairs, there are 2 good-sized rooms.
Yeah.
There's a room that we use for the classes, and they also, sometimes when we're there, the people have card games, and then there's another room that has tables. There are 2 good-sized rooms downstairs in the community part.
You know, if this was this town land?
I have no idea.
Yeah, the one thing that North Conway does, they have, goes from children's programs to adults with their gymnasium, is they have rental fees for the gym. They also have full-size kitchen that can be rented. So there's different ways that you can bring money into your community center for different activities.
That would be the ideal, to have it multi-generational, so it's
Oh,
not
it
just for
definitely
a
is.
particular age group.
Yep, nope, you're right. The last picture on the video, if you get a chance to look at it again, it's basically a collage of the different faces that we want to see at the community center. And you're 100% correct. You want to mix your young with your old, with your middle age. The idea is hopefully you have your bus tours going, that you have all different age groups of Hooksett residents attending. It sounds like a dream, but I think Hooksett's been hungry for this for decades. But it's just a matter of getting it initiated, getting it started. And I think once we get it started, we have a good plan in place. We start getting some bigger donors. I think people will be getting on board. So that's where we start. Yep.
I've been living in town for 19 years, and I've been to, I don't know how many of you people have been to all these forums that they've had, and different surveys. Everybody wants community center. It's been something that's been talked about.
But the difference now, if I can interject, is it was always town doing it.
Right.
There was opposition, and what John's saying is this is going to be a privately done thing, and it will take off because it's not going to be government money running it.
Right.
So there you go.
That would be my other concern as well, is that what if whoever is running it can't sustain it, then what are the plans for the future as far as, does it get turned over to the town if it's something that is viable to the community, but it can't sustain itself?
Yeah, it would again, that'd be something you'd have to build in your bylaws of what happens when it's time to retire it or it can't be sustained. And again, we're always looking, we're gonna look for the community input on your ideas, but I would say either one of 2 things. The number one thing I would think is that you would sell it to a private sale for somebody to actually run the community center. That would be my first choice, because I don't think donating it to the town is fiscally responsible, because now you're putting the burden back on the taxpayer, and that the whole idea of this project is not to do that. So, you know, I would say a private sale would be the way that this board, and I'm not speaking for the board, but that would be my input, is as part of the bylaws, is the, I'll call it the destruction of the, I know there's another word for it when you put it into bylaws, but it's basically your exit strategy.
And I think that's one of the biggest concerns, because in the beginning you have a lot of enthusiasm, and I've been involved in a lot of projects where it's the same people over and over and over again that are involved in it, and then after a while, they get tired, and they start getting other interests, and that's when it starts to fall by the wayside.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, are you talking about organizing it, or are you talking about running it?
Running it,
Running it,
the
yeah.
long term.
Yeah, so we haven't even discussed this yet, but we'll bring it up at a future board meeting, is actually the management of it. It won't be a volunteer-managed operation. It will be professionally managed, is my input. Again, these are future discussions of the board. And before I talk about it too much, I don't want to get into the details, but we're having discussions with other organizations that are interested in such a thing. Because to your point, if it's volunteer-based to manage and run, there's plenty of examples of volunteer organizations and tasks in town that fizzle out because, to your point, people get burnt out. So that's not a model we would want to do. And the model in North Conway basically has a director that is paid, a paid director with paid assistants to run that facility and run the programs. So you would have the same thing. It would be paid by the nonprofit, but they would be paid positions. It wouldn't be volunteer positions.
And then, so that paid position, how is that money raised? If it's a nonprofit, how's the money raised?
The ways that we discuss in that whole video, again, one of the ideas is you have businesses incorporated into your community center, so you basically have people paying a lease on the space that they're using, but what they're doing is they're providing a service to the people that go to the community center. So the examples are like a salon or a barber shop. It's a business, so they're making money. They're getting the traffic, if you will, of the community center. However, they're paying back into the community center for leasing of that space that they have inside. So that's one form of income that keeps on coming. You know, the point is you don't want to keep having cupcake sales or duck races, right? Because it's a lot of cupcakes you got to sell. So you got to be a little smarter how you generate your cash flow for the community center.
How many square feet is it?
So again, it's conceptual right now. It's all ideas.
Based on what you conceived there, your
Yeah,
conception of what it looks like.
The building's not. We're not there yet.
What does North Conway have?
North Conway, 10,000 square feet. 10,000 square feet.
And does that sound comfortable for what you're all doing, looking at?
I don't think we're there yet. Again,
Okay.
we're gonna have detailed discussions as we move forward. This is our first meeting. This is just an organizational meeting. It's really to start the conversation with the community. Those conversations are gonna get larger because we're gonna have meetings that are not board meetings. They're just gonna be community input meetings. So this is the time, tell your friends if they have good ideas, come to the meetings. This is the time to get your input in right at the beginning. Based upon those ideas, based upon what people want to see in the community center will determine the size and the functionality that gets built into that community center. If people are happy with small conference rooms and a tiny gym, so be it. That's what we'll build. But if people have big ideas and they have good ideas on how we're going to raise the money to do it, then that's what we'll get done.
Like you said, this is your first meeting. I think before you can go too far, your next thing, you're going to have to have the land. Because where you're going to put it, that would bring up a lot of questions with the people who host it.
Sure. Yep.
You're putting all this out for questions, but where are you going to put it? You have no idea.
We're currently already talking to people in town with land that's being sold. So again, we're looking for donations, but if we have to, we're going to have to buy the land. But donation would be the ideal.
And I think, like there's a town meeting tonight?
Town meeting?
Yeah, isn't there a meeting in town tonight?
Probably a town council meeting.
So there's some of the people I know would like to be here too, but you can't run two meetings, like you've got somebody who can't come here.
Sure.
I think if you could set it on, try to set it on a night we'll have another meeting.
Yeah, the hardest thing is, you have 14 people on the board. What you try to do, what North Conway tried to do, is you try to have a mix of people. We have somebody here from Southern New Hampshire University. We have some older, younger people, business people. We're trying to get a mix of the interests. Well, as you can imagine, it's like herding cats. Everybody here has a schedule. So we just try to set a meeting. One of our members is on the town council, so that's why he wasn't able to be here. So it's a good point. The problem is we'll always be in conflict with something. But if we can in the future, we'll try to keep it off of town council meetings, so if people, like you say, that want to be at both can be there, yeah. But the word I want to get out on the street is, we're going to have a lot of chances for the public to get their input. We're just going to be the focal point of this community and their ideas. So the ideas are not coming just from us, they're coming from this community. That's how we're going to build this thing, okay? So if you want to get a word out there in the public, and again, I said, we're going to listen to the positive and the negative. As we go forward, we're going to have conversations, and the public is going to disagree with it, and we want to hear that, right? It's wide open. We don't just want to hear the positive stuff. We want to hear if the board starts going down the wrong track. We want to hear that, okay? Anybody else? All right, so this is the favorite part of the meeting for Matt, because I get to use his gavel and say the meeting is adjourned. If anybody's interested, we're going down to the Tap House for social hour.
So now they're okay with it.
Now it's okay. Now it's okay. Not before the meeting. After the meeting.
It's always
is okay.
better after you get more accomplished after.